Hi, I'm Mart, and you're watching Mart's Movies Review here on nearmedia.tv. This is an Alfred Hitchcock special, so I'm going to talk about three of his movies from the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. I'm going to start with the 39 Steps, then Shadow of a Doubt, and then finally with To Catch a Thief. So the first film I'm going to talk about today is The 39 Steps, directed by Alfred Hitchcock in the 1930s. In 1935, it was a Gaumont Pictures international film, and starring Robert Donette as Hannah, and you had Madeline Carl as Pamela. And it's a story of a lot of Hitchcock's movies that you'd find early on. It's a man on the run, a mistaken identity film. So it takes place in London, and it's a story, kind of a political thriller with the famous MacGuffin, the psychological reason for the film being government secrets, military secrets on the loose, and he gets himself caught up, Robert Donette, in a murder, and he's on the run, and are after him, government agents. So he takes a trip from London to Scotland, and he's on one of the trains on the London to Edinburgh train, and he meets two men talking about some haberdashery. And here's a scene from the film.
Well, for one thing, they're much prettier than they were 20 years ago. More free. Free and easy. You're right there. I can never understand how people used to put up with the old-fashioned sort. All bones and no bend.
Well, I will say for the old-fashioned, they did last longer.
Well, I don't know. Mine last about a year. Here, I'll show you. Big demand for these now. The old-fashioned sort.
My wife.
Now take a look at these. Our new streamline model number 1. What I've been talking to you about.
Anything go with it?
I should say so. This. Put a pretty girl inside those, and she needn't be ashamed of herself anywhere.
All right. Bring it back to me when it's filled.
I will. Now, what's this? Edinburgh, Waverley. We're getting on.
I hope you're partners for talking business, sir.
Oh, certainly, certainly.
Good day, sir.
Good day,
Good
sir.
day.
A good day. Broad-minded old geezer.
I bet he's very good at charades. I wonder what won the 2 o'clock at Windsor.
I don't know. Let's get a paper. Hey, son. Speak it out English. Dispatch. Hello.
Well, what won it?
There's been another woman murdered in a West End flat.
What?
Woman murdered in West End flat.
These sex dramas don't appeal to me. What won?
Bachelor butt.
Good.
7 to 4 hours.
Oh, not so good.
Portland Mansions, Portland Place.
By the BBC. That's a nice quiet place to put someone to sleep.
Good night, everybody. Good night.
That was a funny scene from the film there, with the two men talking about the clothing business and the reverend behind the scenes, and of course Robert Donette in a state of tension. But there's always comic relief in Hitchcock's films, light moments, light relief, and he always uses that to kind of kill the tension, just to lighten the mood, and just kind of, or else it'd be too much tension. That was a thing about Hitchcock's themes, are in these motifs in these movies. He would give you tension and release throughout his film, a bit of light humor to increase the tension, or just to lighten the mood of the film, so that the audience is not totally watching a horror movie. So anyway, Robert Donette gets to Scotland. Anyway, he goes to Edinburgh, and he's looking for a town, a little country village outside of Edinburgh, to try and go after the spy organization who have kind of more or less put him in the frame for the murder that he did not commit. So he finds a little country village, and he asks a local man. He said it's miles away. You won't get here tonight. So he gets to stay with them, himself and his wife, overnight. And his wife is played by Peggy Ashcroft, the Oscar-winning actress from the movie A Passage to India, a great movie made by David Lean in 1984. And she was a great stage actress, and she brought a lot of character and mood to the film. And here's a nice scene between herself, Robert Donette, and Peggy Ashcroft.
Will you no come in?
Thank you.
Well, is it true that all the ladies paint their toenails?
Some of them.
Do London ladies look beautiful?
They do. But they wouldn't if you were beside them.
Sanctify these bounteous mercies to us miserable sinners. O Lord, make us truly thankful for them and for all thy manifold blessings, and continually turn our hearts from wickedness.
That was a nice scene, nice kind of intimate kind of scene, and a scene where not always there's smoke without fire, and there's always people get the wrong meanings of situations, and you can see that in the film here as well. And you can see that the husband thinks that the two of them are eyeing each other up, and they are in a kind of way, but they're not going to run away like he thinks throughout the film. And what happens then, as Robert Annette, he escapes the house, the police come along the country roads, and Margaret, Peggy Ashcroft, warns Danette and the farmer, and he pays him some money, and they leave anyway, and he's on the run again on the train, and he gets into a carriage, he kisses Pamela, played by Madeleine Carroll, and he gets tied up with her and handcuffed to her, and she doesn't believe his story. She thinks he's a murderer, he's a killer, he's going to get her. And they find out when they check into a country home, a hotel, that two men are looking for him, and she overhears a conversation and she believes what he says. So here's a scene at the end of the film where, towards the end, where she escapes the handcuffs, yet something happens. Here you go. Here you can see for yourself.
Must be a mile away by now.
Don't do that. Oh, do stop whistling. What are you doing all this for? You can't possibly escape. What chance have you got tied to me?
Keep that question for your husband. Meanwhile, I'll admit you're the white man's burden.
I know, and I can't tell you what comfort that thought gives me. I say, what is the use of all this? Those policemen will get you as soon as it's daylight.
They may get me, but they're not policemen.
And when did you find that out?
You found that out yourself. I should never have known that was the wrong road to Inverary. They were taking us to their boss, and God help either you or me if they ever catch us again.
I see. You're still sticking to your penny novelette spy story. Oh.
There are 20 million women in this island, and I've got to be chained to you. Give me that nail file. Let's have a go at this. Thank you. There I go again. I wish I could get that damn tune out of my head. I wonder where I heard it.
You sound very sleepy.
Sleepy, I'll say so. Do you know when I last slept in a bed? Saturday night, whenever that was. Then I only got a couple of hours.
What made you wake so soon? Dreams?
What do you mean, dreams?
I've always been told murderers have terrible dreams.
Oh, but only at first. Got over that a long time ago.
Good morning.
What's the idea? How did we get out of these?
We didn't, at least you didn't. I slipped out of mine last night and came and camped out here.
Why didn't you run away?
I did, but just as I was going, I discovered that you'd been speaking the truth. So I decided to stay.
Yeah, that's a warm, funny scene from the film, and 39 Steps, and it's a great film. It's really one of his early prototype thrillers, this time being a political thriller, and it showcases all his motifs, his themes throughout the film. Spies, the mistaken identity, man on the run usually, and it's just excellently well made film from early Hitchcock in 1935 before he went to Hollywood with Selznick in 1940. So the next film I'm talking about is when Alfred Hitchcock had established his Hollywood career. He had made a few movies like Rebecca, starring Laurence Olivier and Joan Fontaine, and won an Oscar for the Best Picture. And he had made one or two movies just in around that time as well. Just before he left, he made Jamaica Inn, which is one of my favorite films with Charlie Lawton and Maureen O'Hara. So he goes to Hollywood. He starts making a film which Hitchcock regards as his best film, a film ever made, a best picture, and I think it's one of his best films as well, called Shadow of a Doubt, starring Joseph Cotton and Teresa Wright, on to star with Marlon Brando in The Men. So it's a story, kind of family story, set in Santa Rosa in California, about a man who again is on the run, and he's accused of murdering these merry widows who have got lots of money, and he's called the Merry Widow Murderer. And there's some suspects, but he's one of the suspects. So he's on the run. So his name is Charlie, Uncle Charlie, and he's got a niece called Charlie, and she's called after him, and she hero worships him. And here's a scene in the kitchen where the two of them meet.
I meant it. Please don't give me anything.
Nothing?
Oh, I can't explain it, but you came here and Mother's so happy. And I'm glad that she named me after you and that she thinks we're both alike. I think we are, too. I know it. Oh, it would spoil things if you should give me anything.
You're a strange girl, Charlie. Why would it spoil things?
Because we're not just an uncle and a niece. It's something else. I know you. I know that you don't tell people a lot of things. I don't either. I have a feeling that inside you somewhere there's something nobody knows about.
Something nobody knows?
Something secret and wonderful, and I'll find it out.
It's not good to find out too much, Charlie.
But we're sort of like twins, don't you see? We have to know.
Give me a hand, Charlie.
Thank you.
You didn't even look at it.
I don't have to look at it. No matter what you gave me, it'd be the same.
Yeah, let me show you. It's a good emerald. A really good one. Good emeralds are the most beautiful things in the world.
You've had something engraved on it. That's different.
I haven't, but I will if you like it.
Yes, you have, Uncle Charlie. It's very faint. T.S. from B.M. But those must be someone's initials.
Well, I've been rooked. Did you all rook me?
Oh, it doesn't matter. Really, it
Here,
doesn't.
give it back. I'll have it taken off.
No, I like it this way. Someone else was probably happy with this ring. Oh, it's perfect the way it is. You bring the coffee.
So that's a nice little scene from To Shadow of a Doubt, but obviously that you can see in the scene there that the niece, she's cottoned on to the ring he gave her, and she sees the initials given to and from someone else. So she's kind of she doesn't mind, but he does mind that she knows about that. So here's a second scene from the film now. It's a dinner scene where you see Charlie's mother and the sister of Uncle Charlie. She's Irish by birth, by the way, and it's a very nice scene as well. But it shows the sinister, dark side of Charlie as he talks throughout the scene. So here's the scene itself.
I promised Mrs. Green, the president of our club, that you'd talk to the ladies, and she wants to know what you're going to talk about.
Well, what am I going to talk about? Lecturers usually give them travel or current events, don't they?
Oh, Charles, not current events. We get current events.
What sort of an audience will it be?
Oh, women like myself, busy with our homes, most of us.
Women keep busy in towns like this. The cities, it's different. The cities are full of women, middle-aged widows, husbands dead. Husbands who've spent their lives making fortunes, working and working. And then they die and leave their money to their wives, their silly wives. What do the wives do, these useless women? You see them in the hotels, the best hotels every day by the thousands. Drinking the money, eating the money, losing the money at bridge, playing all day and all night, smelling of money. Proud of their jewelry, but of nothing else. Horrible.
Ill-fated, fat, greedy women.
But they're alive. They're human beings.
Are they?
That's a dark kind of a, sinister kind of scene there towards the end. But it's more to do with the way Hitchcock moves the camera to the side of his face as well. And you just hear complete silence and just him talking in a kind of a dark kind of manner. And Hitchcock always believes in proximity, knowing where to put the camera to get the emotion and get the psychological realism out of the characters. Even to this very day, you see directors who've come after him, two of them in particular, David Fincher and Brian De Palma, have followed in his suit in that way. So the next scene is coming up now. Is the end of the movie. It's one of Hitchcock's favorite scenes on the train, and it's just Uncle Charlie going away. Charlie has cottoned on to him, yet they don't want to tell anyone. They don't want to tell the mother that he's a jewelry thief and he's been murdering these women for money, and so he decides to go in the train, and here's the closing scene of the movie of Charlie and Uncle Charlie just heading away on the train.
Charlie, just a minute. I want you to know I think you were right to make me leave. It's best for your mother, best for all of us. You saw what happened to her last night. She's not very strong, you know. I don't think she could stand the shock. I remember once when she was a little girl.
Oh, the train's moving, Uncle Charlie.
Listen, Charlie. I want you to forget all about me. Forget that I ever came to Santa Rosa.
Your hands. Oh, let me go, Uncle Charlie. Let me go.
I've got to do this, Charlie. So long as you know what you do about me. Not yet, Charlie. Let it get a little faster. Just a little faster. Faster. Now.
So that was the final scene of Shadow of Doubt. A great film, you should check it out. And the final movie I'm going to talk about is To Catch a Thief. To Catch a Thief is my personal favorite film. It's my favorite film of Alfred Hitchcock's, but it's my favorite film of all time. I mean, I'd watched a lot of movies before, all the ones that people talk about, but this movie, I think, is because it's set in the south of France, the location, you know, the French Riviera. I just like the story of a kind of a reformed man who's on the run, mistaken identity, a French resistance fighter, and his name is John Robbie, called the Cat, and he's accused of taking jewelry, which he used to do with his friends before the war. Then they became heroes because they fought with the French resistance. And he's accused of taking jewelry. There's a new woman and her mother on the island, are all around the French Riviera. Frances, played by Grace Kelly, and her mother, and they have a lot of jewelry. So he starts trying to prove his innocence. She has the most expensive jewelry around the area, so the police are onto him and onto her family as well, to be wary of the burglar, of someone might take their jewelry. So here's a scene anyway. He meets up with Grace Kelly, and here's one of the early scenes in the film. There's a nice romantic scene there between Grace Kelly and Cary Grant. And the next scene you see them, they're on the run. And even though they don't know they're on the run, they're being followed by men. And they're just having a walking scene, and they're talking, getting to know each other and talking about who they are or what they are to each other. And here's a scene from their walking scene in To Catch a Thief.
You're absolutely right. Give me a woman who knows her own mind.
No one gives you a woman like that. You have to capture her.
Any particular method?
Yes, but it's no good unless you discover it yourself. Are you sure this is the right address?
Well, it is a little large, but it's on the real estate agent's list.
Let me see.
Let's look at the gardens first. No need to bother the people. Why don't you own a place like this?
Palaces are for royalty. We're just common people with a bank account.
That sounds more like your mother than you.
There's not much difference between us. A few years and some grammar.
And jewelry, you never wear any.
I don't like cold things touching my skin.
Why don't you invent some hot diamonds?
I'd rather spend my money on more tangible excitement.
Tell me, what do you get a thrill out of most?
I'm still looking for that one. I thought we were going to look at the gardens.
I was interested in the architecture. Mediterranean, turn of the century, isn't it?
You never mention your wife.
Never found the time to get married.
You don't seem to be pushed for time now. Or did you just come over to add interesting items to your diary? Like the name and description of that French girl you swam out to meet.
You are husband hunting after all.
That wasn't jealousy you heard working. Merely disappointment in your limited imagination. Teenage French girls yet. Oh, I bet you snowed her under. The big, handsome lumberman from America. I'll bet you told her all your trees were sequoias.
You know, that certainly sounds like jealousy to me. Don't be ashamed of it. Let it out.
You're somewhat egotistical.
Fighting fire with fire. Miss Stevens?
Yes, Mr. Burns?
You know what I think?
About what?
You?
I don't really care. Tell me.
You're an insecure, pampered woman accustomed to attracting men. But you're not quite sure whether they're attracted to you or to your money. You may never know.
Anything else?
What you need is something I have neither the time nor the inclination to give you.
Oh, and just what is that?
2 weeks with a good man at Niagara Falls.
There's a nice romantic scene there between Grant and Kelly. They got on screen and off screen as well, so they had nice chemistry in the film. And there's a bit of jealousy that goes on in the film as well with the next scene coming up. There's Danielle. She's one of the daughters of one of the resistance fighters that was with Grant during the war. And it's a nice scene as well, a kind of modern scene where you see them out in the water. And you see Cary Grant's John talking to Danielle, the French woman. And then you see Grace Kelly as well in the film, in the water also. And here is that scene.
Okay, Mr. Cat, let's go.
Danielle, do me a favor. Don't call me a cat.
I only do one favor a day.
Écoute un peu, bébé.
Will you do as your father here asks?
Did I brush your fur the wrong way?
Oh, no, isn't that amazing? The police want me in jail, my old friends want me dead, the cat wants me out of town.
What do you mean the cat wants you out of town?
He sent me a message this morning. It seems the sky is about to fall in on me.
Then don't you think it's foolish to remain here without knowing what will happen to you? But if you were in South America with me, you would know exactly what will happen.
You make it sound dangerous either way.
It would be so much nicer to be killed by love, no?
Pardon me while I get the water out of my ear.
John.
Danielle, you are just a girl. She is a woman.
Why do you want to buy an old car if you can get a new one cheaper? It will run better and last longer.
It looks as if my old car just drove off.
No, it hasn't. It's just turned amphibious.
Oh,
I thought I'd come out and see what the big attraction was.
Good.
And possibly even rate an introduction. Mr. Burns has told me so little about you.
Well, we only met a couple of minutes ago.
That's right, only a few minutes ago.
Only a few minutes ago. And you talked like old friends. Ah, well, that's warm, friendly France for you.
That was a great scene there. Yeah, kind of a more modern scene that you wouldn't see in many of the 1950 movies. Like in 1955, you see, you know, Cary Grant and Danielle out in the water, and then you see Grace Kelly as well, and they're just just eyeing each other up and making kind of sarcastic kind of remarks to each other, just flirtations going on as well. So they're the three movies. That's the end of the Alfred Hitchcock special. And I hope you enjoyed this review. If you do, you can go on to learmedia.tv's website, and you can go on to the learmedia.tv YouTube channel, learmedia.tv, and you'll see more of my reviews and more videos from the learmedia.tv team. So for this edition of the Mart's Movies Review, I say good night.